number. This is homework 6, number 3. Let's see what it says. So extend the previous program in exercise 1 to count the frequency of each element of the 2D array and store each element and their frequencies in an output file. So if you didn't know what homework 6 number 1 was, it essentially asks to get the transpose of an input file, which is this, and then in this case, for number 3, they want to count the frequency of each number. So essentially, how many times did a certain number appear in the input file? So if you wanted an example of that, let's just take 2.0. So if we go through this entire file, we can see that 2.0 occurs 3 times. So 1, 2, and uh, where is the third one? Let me just 3. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3. That's how many times 2.0 occurred in this input file. So here's some pretty standard stuff at this point. Include stdio.h, include stdlib.h, define number of rows and columns by 6 because we had a 6 by 6 array. Then int iljk because we're going to need those later for a for loop. File asterisk impf and asterisk outf for the input files and an output file. Float array, number of rows, number of columns. So array is just going to be the name of the array we're working with, and this is just like how big it's going to be, and the counter to tell you like how many times a specific number happened. And then we're going to start off with if input file or impf, I'll just call it input file for simplicity, equals f open, or f is going to open homework 6 input.txt in read mode. This is the file that I'm talking about specifically. And if it doesn't detect that, it's going to print an error saying it can't be opened. And outf, or the output file, it's going to take the input file from it's going to take the input file and do the code, and it's going to create a new output file called homework 6 output number 3.txt in write mode. So it's going to write everything that we wanted to. And if that doesn't work, it's going to print an error. And I forgot to mention, we're doing exit 1 instead of like exit 0, because exit 1 signifies like that it was terminated unsuccessfully. So yeah, that was the point of that. Then right here, for I is equal to 0, I is less than the number of rows, and then I is being incremented. For j is equal to 0, j is less than the number of columns, j plus plus. Then f scanf input file %f and array ij. That's essentially at this point, because we did it like 3 times, just to like scan the input file and store them in the array. Then this part right here is going to give you the frequency. So similar to number 2, in which we have like a counter and a flag. So you're going to have 4 for loops. Set 2 of the for loops for as one array. So you can call this array ij, and the other for loop, 2 for loops as a separate array. So kl. And then if array ij is equal to array kl, have a counter. And then what's it called? I is going to correspond to k for a number of rows, and j is going to correspond to l for a number of columns. Then you're going to have an if statement. If the counter was greater than 1, then set the flag as equal to 0, and that way you'll just do a printf saying the frequency of this number %f is equal to this many times %d. So array ij for %f will give you this number from the input file that was being repeated, and count with %d is going to just tell you how many times it actually repeated. And then since you can have 3 options, so like counter was greater than 1, so it occurred like more than 1 time, counter was equal to 1, so it occurred like exactly one time only. Then counter is equal to 0 to show that a number wasn't there at all. So yeah, so we just went over if the count was greater than 1. So if the count is greater than 1, then else the count is equal to 1. Print f the frequency of the number. Well, it's the same thing as here. And yeah, and
I have a
then
question.
outside, yeah.
So you defined something called count and a counter, but I don't think you use counter at all.
Let me just check.
Line 13.
Oh, you're right. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that was just a silly mistake on my part. I'm
Okay.
pretty
I don't know if
sure
you
count.
needed it or not.
Yeah. What's happening?
What just happened?
I think you stopped sharing your screen.
Yeah.
I didn't even press anything. That's the thing. All right.
Huh.
That wasn't even intentional or anything. It's just spazzed out.
Uh,
All right. So yeah, I'll just remove that part because that's not used at all. So yeah, and then I'll just compile it. Oh, before before compiling, outside of the for loop right here, you have f equals f the output file, and then return 0. Let's compile this.
What does F close do?
It just makes sure to let the code know you're done with the output file and to close it, so that way it doesn't add anything unnecessary.
Okay.
So yeah. So here it just gives the frequency 2.41 occurred one time. We can check if that's true.
We can't see that.
Oh. Yeah, so in this one I wanted to make sure it happened in the execution thing as well. So when when you hit F10, but they just wanted it as fprintf. So yeah, this part right here you can just ignore because I just did it as like a safety. But yeah, I'll just show you the output file for 3. So let's say, so last time we did 2, so let's take another number. Let's take negative 0.7. So as you can see, it occurs here once, then negative 0.7 occurs there again, so that's twice. And I don't see it anywhere else. So I'm going to say that negative 0.777 occurs 2 times in this entire thing. And what do you know? Frequency of negative 0.77000 is equal to 2. So in this particular program, there's a little hitch with this, because as you can see, it's sort of repeated the frequency of the same number, the same amount of time it occurred. So 2 occurred 3 times. I didn't know how to just show it occur once. But yeah, it happens for some reason, and I didn't know how to fix it. But regardless, it still works the way that you intended it to work. So yeah, did that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, right. And I'll stop the recording there.